Hello, my name is and this is my DungeonCrawler. I'm just going to start up the program first so you can see what it is. Here it says in the beginning, welcome to my maze, use WASD to move around, press enter after each key press, try it out. So you just press WASD to start it, and I'll just see if I can make it fit properly here. There we go. Okay, so you have your life at the top, your damage below it, and then the life of your enemies. S at and X. I can move around using WASD. As you can see, I cannot move through the walls, which are the hashtags. So that's pretty good. You can just cheat your way through it. And then you have the enemies. They are stationary, so they don't move around because they are more fearful that way and scary. So the way it works is you walk into an enemy to attack it. So right now I need to press S in order to go down on the enemy. So as you can see there, the fuck. The add is S. This is add. The add is S. This is add. The add is S. This is add. Hello, my name is and this is my DungeonCrawler. As you can see here, it says welcome to my maze. Use WASD to move around. Press enter after each key press. Try it out. So you press WAS or D to start, and you press Q to quit it. And as you can see here, we have the screen. Let me see if I can adapt it. So here you have the life, the damage, the life of all the enemies. Life and damage is of course the player. And the walls, as you can see, are hashtags, and I cannot move through the walls, and I move around with the keys. And the way you attack your enemies is you go up to them and you press the key that directs you to where they are now. As you can see, S does have 15 health, which means I would have to hit him 3 times. So S is to attack him once. He attacks back, of course, and since he has more health, he has less damage to balance it out. Attack again and again, and I went from 40 to 34 health, defeating that one enemy. This enemy has 10 HP and does 5 damage as the balance. The way you win the game is you get all the enemies. As you can see, there's an enemy down here as well with 5 HP, and when you kill the last enemy, you win the game. So this is my code. As you can see, I've included IOStream in order to use C in and C out. I've also used the namespace std so that I don't have to type it in front of all the C in and C outs. This is the structure for my player and for my enemy. As you can see, I've indicated attack, damage, health, the symbol of the character that is placed in the maze, and a key to press to get the character to move, which is not in the enemy one because they don't have to move and you don't control them, and then X and Y positions for the player and the enemies, and that's the structure for those. I also have the map here, which is a constant character with the it's 8 times 8, and the map itself is an unsigned character that is indicated like this. And the reason I kept it kind of small in order to keep it simple, because I felt that if it got much larger, it would be it wouldn't be very nice to look at, in my opinion. But that's just, I mean, it could always be changed. And then there's the refresh maze, which is for the writing out the maze in the console, where you place my maze, the player X and Y positions equal to the player symbol, which is the player symbol here. And that basically just puts the player where the symbol is at in the maze, and that updates frequently in order to update where the player moves when you move him. And then you have an for statement saying if y is equal to 0 and y is smaller than the total height, y++, which just it writes out one line of the y-axis. And it does so until the requirements here are met, that it only does it to the height of 8, and the same with the x-axis, of course, to the width. In the end, it puts C out my maze, but it flips it around, so that the y-axis and x-axis is kind of flipped around in the console, because if you just write it out as it is, it's not going to show up like it is here. As you can see here, you have the indication of the maze similar to the one in the console. And here's my main, where I've called these structures for the enemies, enemy 0, 1, 2, or 0, 1, and 2, and then the player, where I give them attack damage, health, and their symbols, the S, the at, and the X, and the 0 for the player. And all the enemies are pretty similar. And then you have the player himself, where he has the action key function, so to speak, which is the cases I'll be referring to later. Here you put all the enemies' positions to their symbols, like we did with the player in the earlier up. We have this input here when you start the program, telling the player or the user what to do, and then input from the player to start it. Then you have a while loop that only continues as long as the player is above 0 health. As I've had it right now, the player can't die, but that is something that would easily be changeable. And of course it ends when you win, which is stated further down. It shows the life of you and your damage and the life of the enemies here, with some lines, see out some comment or whatever you say, and the actual numbers of it, and then refresh maze to write it out. Then you have input from the player, which is in this switch statement here, player action key, which is called from the structure. And then you have the A, the D, the W, and S, which is where you move. And within those you have an if statement saying if the coordinates of the player with -1 to the y-axis is equal to the X enemy, you have the enemy's health minus equal the player attack damage. So you take the damage you do and take that away from the health, and the same goes with the player, because of course the enemy attacks back. So that makes sure you lose health as long as the or when you fight the enemy, that also lose health. If the enemy health is equal to or below 0, the enemy is going to be rewritten with a space instead, so that it disappears. And then you have an else if statement that checks afterwards if the position you're trying to move to with the A button, which is moving you to the left, if that position to the left is a hashtag, it will not allow the player to go there. But if it isn't a hashtag, as you can see here, not a hashtag, the player then moves minus, which is -1 on the y-axis, and then a break in the end of the case. All the cases are pretty similar. You have the enemy check, and then the movement of the player, enemy check, and then the movement of the player. So all the cases are pretty similar, WASD. So yeah, and then you have the Q case, which allows you to leave or quit the program. And here are just some if statements saying that if the player position is equal to, or it's checking if the player position is equal to the symbol, and enemy health is below 0, this will go. But this is just something that could be commented out, just something for me to look at in the code. And then in the end you have if enemy health is below or equal to 0, and the enemy if all the enemies, if you has 1, 0, 1, and 2, if all their health are equal to 0, you exit the game, because that would mean you win the game. So yeah, that's my program.